The Senior Bowl winners and losers video you're about to see first aired on our Chat Sports YouTube channel. But if you guys want a new 2024 mock draft after the Super Bowl, then type me for me in the comments section right now. As we do every year, time for some Senior Bowl winners, losers, risers, follows. As always, the disclaimer, the week of practices, always far more important than the game itself. We'll mention the game and some winners and losers from it as well, but it's the practices that mean oh so much more, especially when there are literally rules and different rules for the game itself, like you can't do corner blitzes, etc. All right, Senior Bowl winners, we'll start positive here. Maybe no bigger winner this week than Darius Robinson. I had not gotten to him. I will never lie to you guys, be like, oh yeah, I've watched, all these dudes, before the preseason begins. No, that's not how it works. I had not done anything on Darius Robinson. I clearly should have. He was awesome this week at practice. He was voted the overall practice player of the week by NFL scouts and execs. So if you don't want to believe me, you can just believe them as well. I don't know if he'll end up being a first-round pick. I think there's some blending of the lines between his Senior Bowl performance and Daniel Jeremiah putting him in his top 32. But I was very impressed by Robinson. Inside-outside flex, a lot to like on that front. Overall, the offensive linemen are really, really good at the Senior Bowl and in this class. Maybe none more impressive than Jackson Powers-Johnson. If you were doing the mock draft sims, you could still get him in round 2 going into the week. That was really, late round 2. That was maybe never all that realistic. After a great week where he did leave early because of a hamstring injury, but already proved everything he needed to prove. Center, guard capabilities, I have a tough time seeing him not being a top 25 pick. Certainly could be wrong. I have overreacted before to the Senior Bowl stuff, but I think JPJ is, whether center 1, center 2, looks like a first-round pick. Next up is Quinyon Mitchell, the cornerback from Toledo, who we had put in some first-round mock drafts and will not be leaving that anytime soon. He was voted the top defensive back by the opposing wide receivers this past week, which is always a good sign. He looked like one of the best players there this week. And I always like the Senior Bowl because early on, they do a great job of getting the film stuff out there to the media. It's awesome, even if you're not even there. Other thing is, you get these smaller school guys answering some questions about upping their level of play. Okay, you were at Toledo, that's great. How do you go against some good, wide receivers, some better talent? Answer, a resounding, I got this from Quinyon Mitchell. Who is your favorite NFL draft prospect at this year's Senior Bowl? Was it Mitchell, JPJ, Robinson, somebody else altogether? We'll get to the quarterbacks on today's show, I promise you. It's the pinned comment on today's video, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Next up is Jarvis Brownlee, the Louisville corner. He got the top American cornerback group, by the way. Again, he looked great. In general, it is really tough playing corner in these Senior Bowl practices, especially the one-on-one drills, because you've got a two-way go against shifty receivers, and you can't use something to your advantage or use the scheme to your advantage. It's just man-on-man, and you almost have to guess. He guessed right a lot in this week of practice. Very impressive performance out of Brownlee. Helped his draft stock a pretty good amount. Dylan, I think it's pronounced Lob, the running back from New Hampshire, didn't do that much in the game, was a little bit more limited from that perspective, but had a great week of practice, catching and running the football. The easy comp is Danny Whitehead, small school back, but it actually kind of does fit. Of all the backs in the game itself, maybe the most impressive, apologies to guys like Cody Schrader and even Kamani Badal, was Amani Bailey. The one guy who moved the ball super consistently in this football game. The American team lost, which is kind of hilarious once we get to the passing results from the national team. But 10 carries, 53 yards, 4 catches, 35 yards. Very impactful stuff. The most combined yards of any one player in that game. Did not win MVP, though, which we'll get to later on in today's show. A lot of receivers I want to talk about here. How about Ladd McConkey out of Georgia? Is in the running for one of the best receivers present at the Senior Bowl. This is the type of matchup with his speed and shiftiness and overall route running. The one-on-one drills are rigged in his favor. It's almost impossible to cover him because he gets a two-way go, and you can't really stop that when you're that dynamic. I wouldn't even say he was the best receiver necessarily. There were some other guys who got votes there. Maybe the one who helped to stock the most, because McConkey, we're kind of counting it twice, like the things he does well. Roman Wilson out of Michigan had himself a very strong week of practice. Probably even a little bit better in the team drills, which should matter quite a bit there. This is the type of environment that you want a player like Roman Wilson to impress. We know he's talented, but he was limited in that Michigan offense that ran the ball so much. Not really a thing at the Senior Bowl. Did not play in the game. Looked awesome at this week of practice. Now, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. You go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. You'll get a first deposit match up to $100. It's daily fantasy made easy. They did not offer anything for the Senior Bowl, which is for the best because I would not have gotten my Prize Picks rights based on the numbers that I thought were going to happen. That's why you don't do it, because it's just kind of a weird all-star game anyway. But you can do NFL, Super Bowl, one more game left. You can do college basketball. You can do NBA. And you can just do some fun stuff until the football comes back. 2 or more player stat projections, 2 to 6, more than or less than on those stat projections. I love going the more than route. Sue me. Here are my picks. More than Patrick Mahomes, a half passing yard. More than Christian McCaffrey, 88.5 yards on the ground. And more than Travis Kelce receptions. Again, it's a freebie on the Mahomes side. Again, folks, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That link is going to be in the comments section and the description of today's show. One more time for y'all. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS. Some other receivers I wanted to make note of here. It was a really great group. Ricky Pearsall is a very good player. He's going to be day 2, early day 3 pick. Javon Baker from Central Florida. Malachi Corley, a day 2 pick out of Western Kentucky, was actually the national team wide receiver. A lot of the national team receivers did not play. Luke McCaffrey, that's Christian's brother, and Javon Baker did. They had 4 catches combined as the quarterbacks. One quarterback on that team we'll get into here in a little bit. We won't spend too much time on the offensive linemen, but there were several winners in a very strong group that reflects the talent in this year's draft. Taliesin Fuaga was not perfect. Neither was offensive tackle or Oklahoma offensive tackle Tyler Guyton. Both guys look like top 25 picks. Like these guys are talented. They checked out the measurables pretty well in a way that maybe Jordan Morgan didn't. Very impressed by those two. And you can even argue that the more unheralded tackle, Christian Jones, had a better week in terms of pass protection. Not that all those guys won every single rep, but all 3 guys looked very, very good. Christian Haynes, outside of Jackson Powers-Johnson, was the best interior offensive lineman this week. Dominique Puny from Kansas showed some impressive things. And I do want to at least put Patrick Paul on here. I don't think he was perfect. The things that he has to work on, the hand placement, etc., are still concerns. But the length and everything checked out the way we were hoping it was going to. He's got a massive frame. He probably needs a redshirt year, but damn if there's not a lot of talent to keep an eye on for. We're going to have more draft coverage for you here on Chat Sports, plus free agency, plus trades, and everything else in between. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button right now for more free videos. More winners. We're staying positive this time. Gabe Hall out of Baylor had some very promising reps early on in the week. Again, I like what I saw from him. Devondre Sweat, who I will make note did not weigh in. There's a reason for that. It's okay. He's still able to play, obviously. He kind of got challenged early on by the coaches, like, hey, you can be doing more. And he took that challenge positively and then bull rushed dudes and wrecked them. You might have saw the clip out there. There's a lot of good clips from the Senior Bowl. I forget who the guy was that he bull rushed him back, and the center folded up like a long chair and just fell back. It was an incredible rep. Linebacker, how about Peyton Wilson at NC State? He's a very talented player. You can argue he is the most talented off-ball linebacker in this year's class. It's a matter of how do the medicals check out, but he looked awesome. I even think Cedric Gray looked good in the game as well from North Carolina. And J.D. Bertrand, this is a guy that your coach is going to love. This is the type of, I wish I had 53 J.D. Bertrands on my football team. Like, that type of leadership was even on display at the Senior Bowl. Braden Fisk, next up here, the defense line. I got to mention the school name, sorry. Sweat is from Texas. Wilson's from NC State. Bertrand's from Notre Dame. Braden Fisk is the defensive lineman from Florida State. A was named the top defensive lineman on the American team, and then because of various injuries and opt-outs and stuff, he got traded to the national team to play in the game and actually played quite well, which is kind of hilarious. High-energy guy. His motor is always running. Then there's defensive lineman Michael Hall Jr. is a little bit undersized. The one-on-one matchups favor his type of play style. So again, we're not going to overcount these things twice. I will also make note, Mike Tomlin was consistently with him. Last time that happened was Keanu Benton, who was a draft pick by the Steelers and Mike Tomlin last year. We're going to talk quarterbacks here in a moment. But who do you think was the biggest winner at this year's Senior Bowl? Any prospect, drop the name for me in the comments section. So in general, the way I treat the Senior Bowl is the first day of practice, just toss it out for the quarterbacks. They almost never look good because everything is new. It's a new center, a new receiver, a new staff. There's so much change in there. It takes kind of a special guy, like a top pick guy, which these guys aren't, like number one overall, to just maximize it immediately. Overall, I thought Spencer Rattler, more on him in a second, Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, clearly better than the other quarterback prospects there. Now, that's not to say they were great. Rattler, I thought, probably had the best week overall relative to expectations. Bo Nix and Michael Penix were fine. They got better as the week went on, which is what they needed to do, but it's not like they were dominant heads and shoulders better than everybody else. They also, by the end of the week, were not terrible, god-awful, and frankly, there were some really bad throws by Bo Nix on the first day. He settled in by the final day of practices. Of note, Michael Penix did not play in the game. Again, he didn't need to, but also all his guys were kind of out, so I get it. Let's run through how these quarterbacks played in the game then, because that's what I'm sure you guys saw. Spencer Rattler wins Senior Bowl MVP, 4 of 4, 65 yards, and he scored. Very impressive performance. Bo Nix, 4 of 5, 21 yards, and he scored. Could have been like 5 of 5 for like 70 yards if Tez Walker doesn't drop a pass / get interfield on. So Nix and Rattler, by far, were the better quarterbacks in this game. And I think for the week of practice, too, along with Michael Penix. The rest of these guys, oh boy. Michael Pratt did have 5 carries for 2 yards, 4 of 10 passing, 45 yards, and an INT. Oh, I forgot to mention, Carter Bradley, who's not going to be drafted, was 1 of 6 for 6 yards, so just ignore him. Pratt didn't look great. And I'll be honest, get ready to learn Canadian Sam Hartman. That was, and again, it's a tough environment, I know. It's terrible. 7 of 25 for 69 yards, 0 TDs, and an INT. And the INT, I would say it was the worst play of the game. There was another one we'll get to in a minute from another quarterback. Again, I'm sorry to be mean, but you want honest evaluation, here you go. Hartman throws it to Tez Walker with the corner sitting in front of him. So I genuinely, maybe he got the jersey colors confused. He just threw it to the wrong guy. It was a terrible throw, almost was a pick six. Joe Milton, meanwhile, ignore the interceptions. 9 of 13, 80 yards, looks pretty good. His arm is an unbelievable howitzer. And sometimes you don't know where it's going to go. It was picked off twice. And the worst play of the game wasn't a pick, by the way. It's 3rd and 1. Third and short, excuse me. And Milton does a great job to avoid a sack, rolls left, kind of signals for a guy to go downfield. And I think he tried to no-look throw it to the running back, who was about 5 yards away from him. And Milton missed it by about 5 yards. Like, he had the first down in the bag, and he tries it. I think it was a trick shot, which would make me feel better and worse about missing the throw. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. Like, he's just too inconsistent too often. The interception, one of them was in the red zone across his body. Can't do it. So, again, I don't mean to be mean, but I kind of want to see Milton at tight end. I think Sam Hartman's going to go play in the United Football League. Like, these guys they just aren't it. Who do you think was the best quarterback at the Senior Bowl? I'd vote Rattler, Nix, Penix, but not like those guys were dynamically impressive and like they boosted their stock massively. Saw some narratives that I don't think that was the case. But who was the best quarterback? Go vote for me in the comments section. Life has losers. We have to deal with it. I still like all these guys, by the way, within reason. Even after I bodied Sam Hartman and others pretty badly, all things considered. Most of the quarterbacks, again, I thought didn't have their best stuff. Disappointing. It's okay. It's still a good class overall, and I think Nixon, Penix, and Rattler can still have NFL success too. Big loser, unfortunately, and this is where it really starts to suck, is Rasheen Ali, the running back out of Marshall, who I thought was actually practicing pretty well, and then ruptured his biceps tendon, which is kind of like sucks. Like I think it's kind of more of a freak injury more than anything. He's going to miss 4 to 6 months, so he should be good to go for the preseason, but that kind of screws up your timing a pretty decent amount. Who do you think was the biggest loser at this year's Senior Bowl? Prospect or whatever. Go ahead and vote for me in the comment section. Maybe it was the receivers who didn't get much good quarterback play once Rattler and Nix were out of the game. I am going to put Latu on here, who I still think is going to be an easy first-round pick. I love the prospect overall, but he was not bad. There were plenty of good wins by him. I was hoping to see this was the best player on the practice field from him. I don't know that he was. I think he was still top 5-ish, but I don't know that he was the best player. Still going to be a highly graded player for me if the medicals check out, but I was hoping for him to be dominant. He was just like good to very good instead. Xavier Leggett next up here. Only 6'1" at the measurable check-in. Not great. He was frankly bad on Tuesday. Just didn't look comfortable. Wednesday was much better, but then hurt his ankle on Thursday. So very much a mixed bag there from Leggett. We're going to spend all this time, everyone's going to talk about, Roman Wilson and Malachi Corley and Ladd McConkey. I thought Leggett would be in that conversation too. He was not. Tez Walker out of UNC. Boy, that was not a great week for him. I just got to be honest here. Now, there was a lot of contact in the game too that he could have drawn PIs on. He had several drops in practice and several drops in the game. Not what you want to see. Meanwhile, Kalen King out of Penn State, I had hoped he was going to revamp and relaunch his first-round pick conversation. And again, playing corner in the one-on-one drills is basically not fair. Like you got to guess and guess right because they got a two-way go, and these guys are shifty and fast. And he got beat a lot. Didn't really make any plays throughout the week of practice, which was disappointing for him. Not like shambles over it, but I think that his chance to boost his stock did not happen.